of
Proc print means frequency
proc
tablet.
print. Proc print
Means proc
means
proc
proc
frequency.
frequency,
Proc
proc tablet, and some of the features of data step. Some of the features of data step. And then later I said, since it has got so many features in it, we can generate a wide variety of reports. We can generate a wide variety of reports. So it's one of the very flexible and it's got so much of versatility in it. And I told you by using a proc report, we can generate the report for few, like for some of the variables, or all the variables of the data set. So some or all of the variables of a data set, we can generate a report. And also I told you by using proc report, we can generate descriptive statistics. We can generate descriptive statistics. So I told you in the real time, whenever you want to present your report or whatever, whenever you do the data analysis, finally, if you want to submit that analysis in a form of a report, we always use only the proc report. And I told you the general syntax for the proc report is proc report, and then we are going to write a few options, depends upon our requirement, and then give me 1 second. Hello, am I audible now? Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So I told you proc report. In the proc report statement, depends upon our requirement, we write a few options, and then we write a column statement. And then I told you we write a define statement. And after the define statement, we write a break statement. And then we write a R break statement. And then we write a, compute statement. I told you we can write 8 different types of compute statements. We can write 8 different types of compute statements. And then finally, we write the run statement. So now in the last class, we have seen options. Remember what were the options that we have discussed? And we have discussed the first one is the data is equal to. Tell me why we the data is equal to option? Why we the data is equal to option? Anybody?
To specify
of report. Data is equal to specifies a data set name for which you want to get the report. If I don't write the data is equal to, then what will happen? What will happen if I didn't write the data is equal to option?
It does not.
It will print. It will print. It will print. It will print the most recently created data set. It will print the most recently created data set of work library. Okay, but if you want to save the report into a data set, what we should do? If you want to save the report into a data set, what is the option you should write? Out is equal to option. Out is equal to specifies a data set name into which you want to get the report. And then I told you we use an option called box. What the box option will do?
To create the table
Output in the output,
in out in the
we can
table.
see the tables.
In output window,
Output
it will
window, we
print
can
the
see
information report in a form of a table.
table.
In the
And
table form.
And let me clarify one question, one thing. You know, in a class of we have 70 members, and if you're not responding, that is okay. And I'm telling you this time, at the end of the proc report, we are going to have a 20 tasks. 70 members of the class, everybody in the class must do all the 20 tasks. Otherwise, I'm not going to allow you for the next class. Okay, we have 20 tasks in the proc report. You have to complete all the 20 tasks. Otherwise, I'm telling you seriously, there will be no next class at all. Even if one member in the class, if they didn't do the task, then there will be no next class. Okay, and careful, understand the procedure, read it carefully, practice it carefully, and do all the 20 tasks. I'm going to see this time the code of all the 20 tasks from each and everybody. I didn't take much care of the proc print, but I'm not going to leave this time. Now, if you want to have a blank line between the variable names and the data, I will use an option called head skip. Head skip is going to keep in a space, a blank line between the variable names and the data. And then we have discussed headline. Headline is going to keep a line between the variable names and the data in the output window. And then we have seen an option called, line size is equal to, we have seen page size is equal to, and we have seen center,
Name.
no center option, and we have seen named option, and we have seen no header option. And then I told you in SAS 9.4, by default, you won't get a separate window. If you want to have a separate window, we should write an option called windows.
No exec.
And if you do not want to execute your program, we are going to specify an option called no exec. And these are the options we have seen in the last class. And in today's class, what I'm going to do, I'm going to discuss about the statements. Okay, now I'm writing, first of all, to explain the proc report, I'm going to create a class dataset in the work library. I'm creating this from the SAS self.class. Now I'm writing SAS self.class. Now I'm writing the run statement. If I select the program and execute the program, I will have a class dataset in the work library. Now I want to report this variable dataset. Now I'm writing proc report data is equal to, now I'm writing the class dataset, semicolon run. And when we are discussing about the proc report, I told you we should discuss about the differences between proc print and proc report. And in the last class, the first difference that we have seen in the proc print, by default, you will get an extra column called OBS, and that OBS column you won't get in the proc report. And the second one is, I told you in the proc print, the report will be get adjusted to the width of the variable. The length will be get adjusted width, but in the proc report, it won't be get adjusted. That's why when we have a sex variable, it is printing in the vertical way because the length of the sex variable is only one. Whatever the length that we have, you'll get only that in the report. But in the proc print, it will be get adjusted to the width. These are the two differences that we have seen between the proc print and proc report. Now, that is okay. If I execute this program, how many variables you are getting in the report?
19.
5 variables. 5 variables. Because in the class data set, we have 5 variables. So we are getting those 5 variables in the report. Okay. But what I want to do, I want to print only few variables, not all the 5 variables. I want to print only name, height, and weight. If you want to print only selected variables, remember what was the statement we have written the proc print? What was the statement we have written? We have written the var statement. But here we have written the var statement. Here we do not have a var statement. Equal to the var statement, we have a statement called column statement. Column statement will specify the variables that you want to print. Now I'm writing a column statement. In the column statement, I am writing the name variable, I am writing that height variable, and then I'm writing that weight variable. Now, if I select the program and execute the program, I will get the print for only for 3 variables, which are name, height, and weight. So now how we can define the select column statement now? Column statement specifies the variables variables that we want to have in the report. Whatever the value that we want to have in the report, we are going to specify that variable in the column statement. Say, for example, if I want to print all the 5 variables, now I'm writing proc report, data is equal to class data set. Now I'm writing the column statement. I am writing the name sex is, I am writing height and weight. Now run. Now if I execute this program, tell me what is going to happen. It will print all the 5 variables. Now, what I want to do, I want to print only character variables. Tell me what we should write if we want to print only character variables.
Underscore char.
Or char underscore. If I specify underscore char underscore, it will print only character variables, which are name and the sex variable. But tell me, if you want to print only numerical variables, what should I do?
Underscore
Column
numeric.
underscore numeric underscore. But if I specify underscore numeric underscore, it will print only numerical variables. But if you specify underscore numeric underscore, you know what it will do? By default, it won't print the individual values. By default, it will print the totals for all the numerical variables. You know, in the SAS self-data class, we have 3 numerical variables, age, height, and weight. We are getting total. By default, you'll get the totals for age, height, and weight. So if you are asking for only numerical variables, what it will do? It will print the totals. But if you want to have any individual values, you know what we should do? Along with that numerical variable, so you should have at least one character variable so that now it will print the individual values. So, but if you have only numerical variables, so by default, what it will do? It won't print the individual values, but it will print the totals. But now tell me, I want to print all the variables. What you should do if you want to print all the variables? You should write a column underscore all underscore. If you specify underscore all underscore, it will print all the variables of the data set. Remember what we have discussed in the last class? Now tell me, if I specify column statement, now I'm specifying var one hyphen var 4. Tell me which variables will print if I like this way, if I write like this one. Which variables it will print now?
Name, sex, age, height.
Where
No.
1 to
It will
var
print var 1,
4.
var 2, var 3, and will print var. Now tell me, if I specify column statement var 1 double hyphen var 4.
It can print all.
All the variables, even if they don't start with var.
Very good. It is going to print all the other variables, even it's not starting with var. Say, for example, in a data set, I have var1, var2, var3. In between, I have an x1. And if I have an y1 or y2, if I have an x2 or x3 or y1 or something. Now, if I specify double hyphen, since these variables are present between var1 to var4, now if I specify double hyphen, these variables also will get print. But if you specify var1 single hyphen var4, it will print only var1, var2, var3, and var4. Now tell me, if I specify a statement like this one, column var colon. What will happen if I specify var colon?
All variables that start with var.
All the variables that starts with the var colon. Var. VA or var. Whatever the value that is starting, we discussed all these things during the proc print. Okay, so single hyphen is going to give the same series, but if you write the double hyphen, other series is along var series with like plus all the other series, and if you specify var colon, now we are going to get print of all the values which are starting with the VA or var. Understand this one? Now I'm writing proc report, data is equal to class data set, and I'm writing var statement, I'm writing name. Tell me, sorry, I'm writing a column statement, I'm writing name variable. Tell me which variable we are going to get print?
Name variable.
Only name variable. But now tell me, what will happen if I write name 3 times? It will print the same variable for 3 times. So that means in the var column statement, we can specify the same variable multiple times. We don't use the character variable in that way, but we are going to use a numerical variable in that way because, one time I want to use it for some kind of statistical analysis. For the next time, I want to use for different kind of statistical analysis. For all the purposes, for each purpose, we are going to write one time the same variable. And we'll discuss that one during the analysis time.
సార్ గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ సార్ శ్రీనివాస్ సార్.
సార్ చెప్పండి.
సార్ ఫీజులు చాలా మంది పే చేయలేదు సార్ వీళ్ళు. సో నేను కొన్ని పేర్లు చెప్తాను సార్ వాళ్ళు రేపటి నుంచి అలౌ చేయకూడదని చెప్తున్నా సార్.
ఓకే సార్. ఓకే
సార్ స్టూడెంట్స్ తో.
షూర్ సార్.
ఎస్ సార్. గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ స్టూడెంట్స్.
So this is about the column statement. As I said, column statement is useful to specify the variable names that we want to have in the report. Okay. Now I want to print all the variables. I want to have all the variables in my report. Now I'm writing proc report data is equal to data set name, which is a class data set. And then I'm writing a column statement. I want to print the name variable, sex variable, age variable, height variable, and the weight variable, semicolon. Now I'm writing the run statement. Now I will get the report for all the 5 variables. Now it looks good. Now tell me, I want to apply the label for sex variable as a student gender. Tell me how to apply the label.
By using label statement.
We should write a label statement. How to write a label statement? Label variable name is equal to whatever the label you want to have. Now we should specify. Yes, I want to have a label student gender. I am writing the student gender and keeping a semicolon. Now I am selecting the program, executing the program. Now can you see we have the label for sex variable in the HTML window. Of course, it is printing in the horizontal dimension, but in the output window, can you see how the label is printing for sex variable in vertical dimension? Because the length of this variable is only 1. So we do not have enough sufficient length. That's why it is printing in the vertical dimension. But that is okay. Now, can you tell me what is the third difference that we have between the proc print and proc report? In proc print, even though you have a label statement, by default, it will not print the label. If you want to print the label, what we should do?
Label option.
We have to give label option here. We have to give the label option. Otherwise, it won't be get printed. But by default in the proc report, if you have a label, it will print the label. But proc print by default, even though you have a label, it will not print until unless you specify the label option. Understand? That is the third difference. Okay, now I want to have a label. I have given the label student gender. Now I got the label. Now I want to apply one more label for the sex variable. Now I'm writing a label, sex is equal to, now I'm writing, say, for example, as per records. Now tell me, if I execute this program, what will happen now? I have written 2 label statements for which variable?
Sex.
Same sex variable. Now, if I write the 2 statements for one variable, tell me what will happen?
Override.
The second statement will overwrite the previous
first
statement. So tell me then, what is the label I will get now for sex variable now?
As per records.
As per records. But I want to have both the labels. And one important thing, in the proc report, we never apply the labels by writing a label statement. We never apply the labels by using label statement. We have a better and more flexible statement. And that statement, we call it as a define statement. And what is this define statement? Define statement is a very flexible, important statement. And we use a define statement to define, to define variable attributes. Define variable attributes. What attributes that we can define here? We can define the label of the variable. We can define the width of the variable. We can define the space of the variable. We can define alignment. Define the alignment, and we can define the format, and we can define the usage of the variable, and we can define different types of styles, and we can define different types of statistics, and even more that one. So we can define all these attributes. That's why define statement is a very unique, and it gives a lot of flexibility and versatility for the proc report. We can generate different types of reports because the presence of the define statement. Now, how to write a define statement? If you want to define, you should write a define statement, one define statement for each variable. Generally, if you have column statement, you will write only one column statement in the proc report, general, right? But how we should write the define statement? You should write one define statement for each variable. So for example, I want to apply the label for the name variable. So now what we should do, now you should write define space the variable name. For which variable I want to apply this one? For the name variable name. And immediately after the variable name, you should give a forward slash. Then now within the single or double quotations, whatever the label you want to apply, you can write it. Now I want to give the label called student name. I am writing the student name and give that label. And finally, you should keep a semicolon. You no need to write a label is equal to or a label statement. Simply within the quotations, you should write the label. Now see, if I select the program and execute the program, now we will have a label for name variable and the variable by the way that we have student name. And second variable, now the define the second variable is sex variable, and again you should write a forward slash. Now within the singular double quotations, whatever the label you want to have, you can specify, yes, I want to have student gender. I am writing the student gender. Colon. Now the third variable, you should write the define. The third variable is age variable, forward slash, within the singular double quotations, whatever the label you want to have. Now we can specify, yes, I want to have student age. Now I have written student age and keep a semicolon. Then I should write one more define statement. This time I want to define the height variable. Define height forward slash. Now I'm going to specify what I want to do. I want to have student height. I'm writing a student height semicolon. And then I'm writing the define statement. I want to define weight variable. Define weight forward slash. Within the quotations, I am writing student weight. So you should write one define statement for each variable. And by the way, I want to have a student name as per records. What is the advantage of the define statement? If you want, you can write two labels. Now I'm writing like this one, as per records. Can you see how many labels I have given? Two labels. Now if I select the program and execute the program, it will apply both the labels. It won't be get overwritten. We will get both the labels. But when I'm doing this one, why should I write two separate tables? Why can't we write everything in one? If you want, you can write everything in one. Now we have given only one label, which is student name as per records. Now select the program and execute the program. This is how I'm going to get it. Can you see how the student name as per records is printing? It is printing in one line in the HTML. But I want to print a student name in one line as per records in the second line. What we should do if you want to print in that way? Very good. You should write a split option. We can also write the split option in the proc report also. I'm writing, split is equal to, what we should write split is equal to?
Forward
Any special character. Any special character. It doesn't write, no need to write only forward slash, any special character. But whatever the special character that you have written, now you should write the same special character wherever you want to split your label. I have given the title symbol. Now I'm using the same title symbol in the label also. I want to have student is in years. I want to have in years in the parenthesis, and of course, I want to have this in years in the next line. So what should I do? I am going to specify again the same title symbol. Student height, and then now within the parenthesis, I want to have in centimeters, but I want to have in centimeters in the next line. Now I have given title symbol. Again, I am writing the title symbol here within the parenthesis. I want to have in say for example LBS, and I'm giving in LBS. Okay, now I'm selecting this program and executing this one. Now can you see wherever I specify the title symbol, from that point onwards, now it is going to print in the next line. And I want to have student gender also as per records. So now here I'm writing title symbol. Now within the parenthesis, I want to have it as an as per records. I had given the same thing. Now I'm selecting this one, executing this one. Now this is how I'm going to get. Okay, in the output window, I'm getting good. But can you say how it is printing in the output? Sorry, in the result viewer, it looks fine. But can you say how it is printing in the output window? Because we have only length 1. So that's why it is printing in vertical dimension. Understand this one? Is this clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So far, we have applied the label. If I execute the program, can you see how this report is coming in the output window? This way. We are getting the name variable with only this width, and sex is printing in only one column. Okay, and age is printing only in this width, height in this width, weight in this width. But I want to print even more widthy. I want to print very spacious. Now we are going to have a second option in the define statement, which is width is equal to. By default, what is the width? By default, the width is the length of the variable. The width is nothing but the length. Do you know what the length of the name variable?
8.
8.
The length of the variable is 8, right? Now the same length is going to be the width. Now that means by default, in the define statement, we are going to have width as an 8. Now in the same way, I want to have width for sex variable. By default, what is the width of sex variable?
1.
1, because the length of the sex variable is only 1. So the same length is going to be the width. That's why we are going to have width only 1. Now can you say, so this is my age variable. And of course, the length is 8. So that is going to be the width. So for all the numerical values, now we are going to have, what is the width we are going to have? 8. And then for height variable also, what is the width we are going to have? 8. And what is the width we are going to have for the weight variable? The width is going to be 8. Understand this one? Since this is the width, this is how the values are printing in the output window. But I want to print very spacious. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm changing the width from 8 to, maybe I'm going to keep it as a 16. Now I'm going to keep that age width also 16. Now see, I have specified 16 for the name and sex. Now I have executed this program. Now can you see in the output window, now previously we used to print name in this way and sex in this way. But now after increasing the width to 16, now can you see how the name values are printing and how the sex values are printing? By the way, can you see how the label of the sex is printing? Now the label of the sex is printing in horizontal manner because we have enough width to print all the label like this one. Because we have given the length, now width 16. Previously, we used to have only 1. Now we have a 16. Understand this one? Now in the same way, I want to print age, height and weight also widthy. So I'll go back to the program. Since we have an 8 default, I'm changing that into 16. Here also I'm changing this into 16, and this one also I'm changing that into 16. After changing into 16, I'm selecting the program and I'm executing the program. Now this is how we have. Can you see in the output window how spacious it is printing? Previously, it used to print only this much width. But now, after increasing this width to all the variables 16, now it is printing very widthy. And along with that, I am going to specify headline and headskip. It is going to print even more better. Headline, I'm going to specify headskip. Now select the program and execute the program. And this is how it is going to print. Can you see in the output window how it is printing now? We have a line, we have a headspace, and now we have the data very spacious. It looks better. Clear everybody so far? Now, the next option that we have, what do you mean by width? Width is nothing but, inside the variable, how much space that we have. Now, the next option that what I'm going to discuss about is the space between the two variables. That means this space and this space. How much space that we have between the two variables? By default, between the two variables, we are going to have a space two columns. అంటే రెండు వేరియబుల్స్ కి మధ్యలో 2 columns పెట్టేంత స్పేస్ ఉంటుందండి. Now see what I'm doing. I am writing, space is equal to. So we are going to have, spacing is equal to, by default, what we are going to have? 2. అంటే రెండు వేరియబుల్స్ కి మధ్యలో 2 columns space ఉంటుందండి. That is a default one. So in the second variable also between now section is what we are going to have now? We are going to have spacing is equal to 2. And after the age also, how many spaces we are going to have? We are going to have a 2, spacing is equal to 2. And after the height also, what we are going to have? We are going to have, spacing is equal to 2. And after the weight also, what we are going to have now? We are going to have spacing is equal to 2. So that means between the two variables, we have space of only 2 columns. Now, I want to increase the space between the two variables. Now, if you want to increase the space between, now I want to increase the space to maybe 6. I'm changing the spacing from 2 to 6. I have written 6 here. I'm 6 also here. Here also 6. I'm 6. I'm 6. Now see, after changing that into 6, now I'm selecting the program. I'm executing the program. Now, if I go to output window, now can you see? Now we have very spacious, since we do not have enough space in one page. Now can you say what is happening? It is printing only 4 variables in one line, and the remaining 5th variable, it is printing in the next line. Can somebody tell me what should I do if you want to print all the 5 variables in one line?
Line size.
Very good. You should increase the line size. How to increase the line size? If you want, you can write a global option. But what is the advantage with the proc report? We can write the line size option within the proc report also. I am writing line size is equal to 200. Now, since I have enough line size, it is going to print all the 5 variables. Can you see in the output window in one line, so that we can see that how the report is very spacious, very widthy, and it looks even more better. Clear this one, everyone? Everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
far, we have applied 3 attributes. One is label, next one is width, and the third one is spacing. Okay, then, do you know that how the alignment of a character variable in a data set? What is the arrangement of a character variable in a data set?
No.
Character variables are always prints on the left side of the column. So name is a character variable left side, sex is a character variable on the left side, and age, height, and weights are numerical variables. It will always print on the right side of the column, right? This is the default setting. All the character variables will print on the left side. All the numerical variables will print on the right side of the column. Now, since name is a character variable, we are going to have alignment left. And since sex is a character variable, we will have a left alignment left. And age, height, and weight are numerical variables. By default, what we are going to have? By default, we are going to have alignment the right. Now, this is how we are going to have. That's why all the character variables will print on the left side. Numerical variables will print on the right side of the column. But I want to control this one. I want to print the name on the right side. Now I'm changing default left into right. Now see, if I select the program, execute the program. Now can you see how the name values are printing now? Previously, we used to get on the left side of the column. Now it is printing on the right side of the column. Because in the define statement, I changed the left alignment into the right. Understand this one. What other thing that we can do? We can also change the center into center. Now, if I specify the center, then what will happen? Now, the name values will print in the center of the column. The center of the column. Now, in the same way, I want to print all the 5 variables in the center. Now I'm going to change each alignment into center. If it is a width, we have width is equal to. If it is a spacing, we have a spacing is equal to, but alignment, you will not have alignment is equal. Simply, we are going to have either left or right. Now, it depends upon a requirement. What we can do, we can change that into left into right or right into left, or you can also have that in the center. Now, can you see? Now, all the 5 variable values are printing in the center of the column. Clear, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is the next attribute that we are going to have? The next attribute that we are going to have is format. What is the format of the name variable? Anybody? Name is a character variable, right? So you will have a dollar symbol. What is the length of the character name variable?
8 characters.
Now it is going to be $8. So for a character variable, whatever the length that we have, that will be the format. We have seen that during the attributes. So $8. Now what is the format for the sex variable in that way now? Format is equal to $1
$1.
$1. Now, what is the format for, what is the format for age variable? If you want to know that one, open that class data set, open that age variable. Now, can you see what is the format that we have?
8.
Can you see here what the format that we have?
That's $12.
Best $12. Now, go to the program and, if you want, you can write, this is how we are going to have by default. What we are going to have? Best $12. In the same way, what is the format for height variable? Best $12. And what is the format that we have for weight variable? Best $12. Now, these are the formats that we are going to have. Now, I am going to specify here format is equal to now best $12. Okay. And for the weight variable also, what we are going to have format is equal to best $12. Okay. Now, tell me, this is the report we are getting. Now, I want to print 2 digits for age variable. Then what should I do? 2 digits for age variable. Sorry, I want to print 2 decimals for age variable. That means I want to print like this one, 11.00 or 12.00 or 13.00 like this one. Tell me, if you want to print age in this way, what is the format I should apply?
5.2.
5.2.
5.2.
See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 total with 5.2. So now by default, what we have for age variable?
Test
Test
one.
dot.
I'm changing that into 5.2. Now, this is how we have height variable. Now for height variable, I want to print 2 decimals. Then tell me what should I do?
5.2.
Again, 5.2. Now here also, I am writing 5.2. And I do not want to have any decimals for weight variable. No decimals. I want to have only integers.
5.
5.
5 dot. Now I'm selecting the program. I'm executing the program. What is the problem that we have? Sorry. Now I'm selecting this program. I'm executing the program. Now this is my report. Now can you see for age variable we are getting 2 decimals. For height also we are getting, because we specified 5.2, 5.2, and here I specify only 5 dot. I'm getting only, it is getting rounded to only integer value. Understand this one? So by default, we are going to have a certain format. If you want to use some other format, whatever the format you want, you can apply. Now tell me, if the sex is F, I want to print as a female. If the sex is M, I want to print as a male. What should I do? F unte female kavali, M unte ganaka male kavalandi. What should I do?
Write format. Okay.
Very good. You should write a user-defined format and you should apply that user-defined format, right? Tell me how to create a user-defined format. Proc format, value statement. I want to apply for a character variable dollar symbol. It is related to sex. I'm writing sex. If the value is capital F, I want to print as a female.
Female.
If the value is capital M, I want to print as a male. Semicolon. Then I'm going to write the run statement. Now select this entire program and execute it. Now we have a user-defined format. What is the user-defined format we created?
$6.
$6. Very good. Now I'll go to the sex variable. Here we have default. What is the format that we have here?
$1.
$1. Now I'm changing the $1 into, dollar, whatever the format you want to have. I want to have $6, $6 dot or something. Now I'm going to specify that one. Now select the program and execute the program. Now, can you see how the sex values are printing now? Can you see the sex values? Male and female. So by default, we are going to have in a format. If you don't like that format, whatever the format you want to, you can have it. Clear so far? So far, we applied the label, we applied the width, we applied the spacing, we applied the alignment, and we have done with format. And then we are going to see the most important usage. Now, based on the usage in proc report, the variables are 2 types. All the character variables will be in a display mode, and all the numerical variables by default will be in sum mode or analysis mode. Both sum and analysis are same. Character variables and by default ఎలా ఉంటాయండి? Display లో ఉంటాయి. Numerical variables and by default ఎలా ఉంటాయండి? Sum or analysis. అంటే since name is a character variable, by default what we are going to have? Display. What do you mean by display? That means these variables are useful to only display the data. So that means we cannot do any arithmetic operation, because since obviously name is a character variable, so can we do any arithmetic operations on name variable? No. So it will be only in the display mode. Now sex is a character or numerical variable?
Character.
So this will be also only in the display mode. Now age is a numerical variable. This will be in sum mode, because that means we can use this age variable for some analysis,
Arithmetic.
And height is a numerical variable. So we are going to have a sum. And weight is a numerical variable. And this will be in the sum or analysis mode. Understand this one? Now, if I select the program and execute the program, of course, we didn't do anything. Just I specified whatever that usage that we have, and there will be no change, any report. No, this is how we are going to get the report. Clear, everybody? So these are the attributes we have seen so far in the define statement. You'll get a doubt. How do you know that width is by default the length? And how do you know by default space is 2? And I told you by default, all the character values will be on the left alignment, all the numerical variables on the right side alignment. How do you know that, the formats are nothing but width, the length of a character variable? Now, if you want to know that one, now I'm going to write a report like this one, proc report. Data is equal to class data set. I'm writing the run statement. Okay. What will happen if I execute this program? I will get the report for all the 5 variables of class data set, right?
Yes.
But when I'm writing the program like this one, I'm using an option called list. I haven't discussed about the list option. You know what the list option will do? The list option will write the default define statement for all the variables of class dataset in the log window. It will write the default define statement for all the variables of a class dataset in the log window. Now see, I am writing the list option. If I execute the program, of course, you will get the report in output window. That is okay. But if I go to the log window, now can you see in the log window, we have like this one. I'm copying column statement, define statement. Did you write the column statement and define statement in the program? Can you see here? Did you write that one? No.
No.
But since I specified the list option, what it will do, it will print a column statement and the define statement for all default define statement for all the variables. Remember, I told you this is the same thing. I told you all the character variables will be in the display mode, and by default, all the numerical variables will be in
Sum or analysis.
So can you see we have specified the same thing? And then I told you for a character default format nothing but the length, $8, $1. Of course, we have specified best 12, but here we have best 9, that is okay. And I told you width is nothing but the length of the variable. And I told you by default spacing is equal to 2. And I told you all the character values by default left side, all the numerical values by default on the right side. And by default, the name of the variable is going to be the label. And if you don't like that one, whatever the label you want to, you can have that. So can you see? This is the default statement. If you want to get this in the log window, what is the option you should write? List option. But when you're practicing and when you're learning the proc report, don't use the list option, because if you use the list option, you won't get anything. You'll get everything ready-made. It doesn't help you. Always try to write a define statement on your own from the starting. Because once you become a professional, once you enter into real time, I'm going to report 20 to 30 variables. If I start writing the define statement from the scratch, it will take a lot of time. So then what I will do, I will write the list option. I will get all the define statements in the log window, and I will copy it and I will paste it. Now, wherever I want to, I will make changes. I want to have width 16. I will change that into 16. Here also I will write 16 or something. Whatever the width I want to, I'm going to write it. Okay. Now, if I want to change, the label, now I'll go over here. I'm going to change simply whatever the label I want to have. I'm going to write it here. And if I want to have a center, I'm going to change that into center. So it is going to make my job easier in the real time. So I'll get a list, the ready-made define statement. So I'll make changes wherever I require. But while you're practicing, please do not use the list option, because you won't learn from the scratch. Clear, everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is about the define statement. we'll discuss about the define statement in tomorrow's class also, and we'll discuss about the remaining statements like break, or break, compute statements, everything in tomorrow's class. Okay? Okay, then see you in tomorrow's class.
Sir, place the notes, sir.